Where are all the real trucks? What's with these turbochargers? What's with all this hybrid? What's with all these unibody? Real trucks have V8s or V6 engines. They don't have hybrid, and they certainly don't have turbochargers unless it's a diesel. In today's market, with unreliability and excess overload of tech, there's only 4 vehicles right now with V6 engines, no turbos, that can haul your boat to the lake and do it reliably. Let's get into it now. Life's too short to drive boring cars. The first truck you should consider buying in 2026 is Ram 1500. That's right, it comes with the infamously reliable V6 Pentastar engine. They're not flawless, but they have been pretty bulletproof, and you can get a lot of miles out of them. They're mated up with the e-torque, so it gives you a little bit of that mild hybrid technology. 305 horsepower with about 269 pound-feet of torque, and sure, you can haul that boat, that trailer, that load, whatever it is, it's going to do it reliably. And on top of it, the Ram is a full-size truck, so you know it's on a full-size ladder frame. Some people say go with the Hemi V8, but that wasn't available for last year. It's transitioning back, as well as there's a Hurricane 3-liter twin-turbo inline 6, which again, I'd skip right now. They're not known. Who knows on the long-term durability? I'm already hearing of some reliability challenges there. But ultimately, they both and all have the reliable ZF 8-speed automatic transmission, which is absolutely bulletproof. Ram trucks have been around for a long time. As a matter of fact, I own a Dodge Ram myself from 2003, and it's still ticking. I can attest that while they're not necessarily the switch watch level of precision, they are in fact a blunt force instrument, and they work. They're a work truck, and they're durable, and they're going to last a lot of time and a lot of miles. And that's the beauty. That's why even the latest generation of the Ram trucks, even with that ZF 8-speed automatic transmission, having some jerky and slightly clunky shifting, that's a little bit of a programming issue. There have been some noted problems with some of these generations as well, with some electronics, the screens blanking out, gauges come and going, lights come and going. Previous generations had the TIPM issue with the totally integrated power module. Now they have more of a system like a CAN bus, almost where it's centralized electrical system, but it does create other challenges, and there have been electrical gremlins with these vehicles. The Pentastar 3.6-liter V6 engines are relatively bulletproof, made it up to a solid automatic transmission. The differentials are overbuilt, and the suspensions are sturdy too. Everybody knows the Rams are a little loosey-goosey on the front end, but ultimately, it's a real truck, and you can get it for pennies on the dollar. There's lots of incentives. We know Ram and Stellantis were jacking prices up, but guess what? They're offering all kinds of incentives on these late model Rams, and you can get a 26 model, which is one of the most reliable trucks right now with a full proper suspension body on frame system with a real engine V6, no turbos, that will run and last forever. The next truck you really have to shop for if you want a V6, no turbos, you have to consider a 2026 Honda Ridgeline. And I've been touting these trucks for quite some time. The Ridgeline's not on a proper ladder frame. However, the rest of the vehicle is bulletproof, and it's sturdy, and it's rigid, and it drives like a truck. The only drawback is that 3.5-liter V6 24-valve engine, that's single overhead cam, iTech technology, and variable cylinder management, which we all know how that worked out for Chevy in their 5.3s, broken lifters and rockers. That doesn't seem to afflict Honda that much, but that's always a technology where they talk about cylinder deactivation. I'm not the biggest fan of that. Outside of that, there's no turbos on this vehicle, and it is in fact mated to a beautiful 9-speed automatic transmission, which has been by and large very, very reliable. These engines are direct injected. They offer up about 280 horsepower, 261 pound-feet of torque. The design is nice. The fit and finish of the exterior of the body panels, the lighting features are great, and they can even tow. They come with a hitch receiver, and they're an absolute glorious vehicle. They have a level of practicality in the box, which is a little smaller, but it's a little more functional. Can't haul necessarily the full 4x8 sheet and load up 100 of those sheets. They will haul just about any one of your yard projects back home. They are direct injected, and a static compression ratio of 11.5 to 1 means it's quite a high operator. Means you're probably going to need a premium fuel. That being said, there's been a couple of issues along the way, and it hasn't been the shift-by-wire stereo-mounted paddle shifters. Neither has it been the Intelligent Variable Torque Management System, the iVTM4. And generally, the transmissions hold up well because there's also a heavy-duty automatic transmission cooler to allow for some of your heavier-duty towing haul needs. There was a recall, an NHTSA recall for 2017 to 2019, approximately 1.4 million Ridgelines of the older generation that had Honda and Acura performing investigations related to rod bearing problems with some of these engines. If there is an issue and it's actually going going through an actual failure, you're probably going to start noticing a knock, a straight running. It's going to feel uneven. It might smoke. You might even get a stalling, a seize. Those are worst case scenarios. But generally speaking, it doesn't affect nearly as many vehicles as it does impact. So ultimately, check your VIN and you should be good to go. There's also a recall related to the Ridgelines up to and including 2023, allegedly, with the auto shutoff system, where you would pull up to a set of lights, the vehicle would stop, but you go to take off and it wouldn't restart. You'd have to kind of recycle it and get it going. Well, allegedly there was some investigation on that, but so far nothing to report for 2026 models. And currently scouring Reddit and looking across the forums, there's indications that some of the older Ridgelines had automatic transmission issues with the 6-speed and the 9-speed autos that came later. Some of them were bucking, a hesitation, not necessarily responding, and it was a bit of an annoyance. Not really outright catastrophic failures, more of a drivability concern. So far, there's no word on the 26 models. So if you like a car that's built by Honda, you know it's reliable, the J-Series engine is reliable, you've just got to validate that it's not part of those batch issues. The fact is the tranny, the engine, the chassis is a great vehicle. They don't rust all that quickly, they're well made, well put together, and honestly, with a suite of electronic tech, not overload, but enough to keep you safe, this clearly is one of those gems that you can't see anymore because all of the noise and smoke and mirrors of all these garbage vehicles with turbos and hybrids means that all we hear about recalls upon recalls, Honda still builds a vehicle that is reliable. Thanks so much for all the new members supporting the channel. If you want your own emoji, priority questions, and sneak peek of a new video, or you just want to support the channel, be sure to hit down there, hit that link. That's going to do all the work for you. Thanks again so much, everybody. Another truck that really needs to be considered. It has a naturally aspirated V6, but it's actually one of the largest in this particular group at 3.8 liters, no turbos. And yes, it has a torque converter automatic transmission. Nissan has in fact been struggling with durability issues with their variable compression engines and some of their smaller Rogues and some of their smaller SUVs. They're using CVTs in some of their smaller SUVs. None of that applies to the Nissan Frontier, which is one of those highly recommended V6 pickup trucks that just does it old school. It's on a ladder suspension and it's clearly just built to work. The Frontier has about 310 horsepower, 281 pound-feet of torque. On top of it, it's direct fuel injection, has dual overhead cam and 24 valves, so it likes to rev a little bit. It's a peppy little machine, and it feels the part. It feels every bit as powerful as the 300 horsepower implies. Either way, it comes with a 9-speed automatic transmission, torque converter. Who wants CVTs? Guess what? None of that garbage here. But in fact, you can either get 2-wheel drive or 4-wheel drive with a 2-level transfer case, which gives you some flexibility for high and low range. And I have a really good friend who actually works at a local Nissan dealership, and he's expressed a few common issues. One of them is some of these vehicles are starting to see a little bit of excess oil consumption. It's direct injected, it will start to carbon up, so a little bit of extra maintenance is required there. But there's also been challenges with the EGR valve. In some cases, clogging the valve, or in other cases, even the catalytic converter causing issues there, ultimately triggering a check engine light. Overall, the Nissan Frontier is a very durable machine, but it does not perfect. And like anything, they have wearing parts, and the timing chain is something we hear on almost every brand, from BMW to Audi to Volkswagen, even including some of the Fords, and you name it. Timing chains, sometimes on a cold start, you'll get a rattle or sounds like they're dragging a chain through a garbage can, but sometimes a timing chain that is a wee bit slack can sometimes make the noise, and if it's slack enough, it'll actually start to create drivability issues, hence sometimes a little bit of a cradle shock. And like many manufacturers that are using more 9 and 10-speed automatic transmissions, the focus is economy, always being in the right gear to maximize fuel economy and ultimate performance. But with that said, there's been cases and some complaints about the transmission not so much catastrophically failing, more of a drivability concern. At low RPMs, low speeds, there's a hesitation, a bucking, or a resistance to actually upshift. It doesn't necessarily do exactly what you want. Now, it's not a failure mode, it's not an issue, and many of those cases have been sorted and resolved with a reprogram of the TCU or in the ECU. Of course, the electronic control module or the transmission control module, of course, can sort up a lot of those problems. By and large, not a big issue. Now, I have this cousin, I don't know if he's a whiner. Well, he happens to have one of these vehicles, but a 2024, and he complains a little bit about squeaks and a little bit of creaking in the chassis sometimes when you're hitting really rough roads. He gets the odd glitch. You know, he's had once or twice screen blank out. He's had the occasional issues with with window regulators, so he's had a couple of electronic gremlins. By and large, he loves the truck. It's durable, it does everything he asks it to do, and he loves that V6 because when he looks around, what else is available? Not much other than what's on our list. Now, there is a recall, and it's the door weld striker defect. Just go to NHTSA, look up the code 26V023, and you'll find that there could be, in fact, defunct welds, and those welds could cause a problem. Driving down the road and it could let go. A door could possibly open up, or unfortunately even hit a hard bump, and a sharp bump is enough to crack it loose. They'll do that, fix that free of charge, and yes, it's not transmission or engine or overall reliability, but it is certainly a safety concern. Who the hell wants their door flying over? And further investigation shows that there's been more problems with the DRLs and the auto start-stop systems, and of course just the simple fact of the odd electrical gremlin with lights blinking or flashing out. That has been a little bit of an issue. But again, you've got to compare to a competition and think about what else is out there. What would you rather have? An issue with a regulator that has been a problem from time to time? Or would you rather have one of those V8 engines that GM's putting out that's blowing rod bearings and you're having to wait 6 months to get your engine replaced? Pick your poison. Now here's another one. Normally I wouldn't necessarily recommend the brand because overall the brand has been a little bit shaky and a little bit flaky. In my own personal opinion, Stellantis has had their challenges with reliability and durability, but this particular engine isn't all that problematic, and we're talking about the V6 3.6 liter Pentastar engine. Yes, you're going to find that in the Jeep Gladiator for 2026 is another great option. None of that unibody crap here. No turbos, no hybrid junk, just a small pickup truck on a ladder frame. But even though it's small, it does some mighty jobs. A max tow rating of 7,700 pounds and even a max payload of 1,720 pounds. You can fill that box up till the cows come home and it'll keep on trucking. These Pentastars are slightly detuned with 285 horsepower and 260 pound-feet of torque and are absolutely great. It's the same engine you're going to find over in more of the base trim Jeeps from the 2 doors to 4 doors. It's not quite the same. It doesn't have the mild hybrid that you're finding in the Ram. However, it does just about all the same duties. Now, sadly for 2026, they did away with the manual, and we love our manuals. I might even backdate and buy a 24, 25, but hey, if you like your autos, 2026 will serve you up just fine. Guess what? ZF 8-speed auto. Yes, that's that bulletproof transmission. You find it in the Jag F-Type, you find it in the BMW series vehicles, you find it in Alfa Romeo, you find it in a whole plethora of different vehicles because it's reliable and it knows exactly your driving behavior. It's predictable, it's durable, it can be reprogrammed for tunability, but it's ultimately perfect as it sits. If you're buying a manual, there have been issues with the pressure plate and the clutch in general, so that's been an ongoing issue for a lot of the manually operated Jeeps. So in this case, it may be worth going with the ZF 8-speed if you don't like those kind of problems. Generally, the ZF 8-speed has been durable. Some people have complained about hard shifting, a little bit rough, and the valve body has needed replacement in certain situations. Overall, a very durable unit. Just have to let you know that it's not perfect. Nothing is. Now, if you go far enough back to the 2021 model, the PCM, yes, there was issues, needed replacement, possibly reprogramming, but most of that's in the rearview mirror. Some of the earlier Gladiators and Wranglers, the JT, had some problems with the screens blanking out, glitching, lights, power windows, power mirrors. Those have been some problems in the past. Again, more issues to contend with, more of the electrical system that you're thinking about when you're buying any of these Stellantis products. From Jeeps to Rams, they all seem to suffer similar fate. A lot of the technology is exactly the same. If you're looking for a truck this year, you're sick of all these recalls and these blown V8 engines, and even Toyota with their V6 turbos, the V35 is trash. In my own personal opinion, these are the 4 trucks you should be trying out. But with all of that said right there, check it out. You're going to love it. As well, right there. Hope to see each and every one of you real soon, everybody. See you then. Bye-bye.